Welcome to Zanet Design, and what I do here is I look at various Google My Business listings and see whether there's a way in which we can improve them at all. In fact, what we do is we look at the competition and then we see if there's a way in which you can get ahead of that competition. So thank you for all those that have subscribed and given me their various businesses and their industries, and that's what we're going to look at today. But also, one of the other things that we're going to look at is also to see if Google plays by their own rules. So I'm going to actually audit Google and see how they get on as well. So look out for that in the video, and thanks for joining me. Hi, I'm Zane from Zanet Design, and I help businesses like yours grow on the internet. So if you're wanting to improve in your local SEO, if you're wanting a website built, designed or created, or if you just want some advice about how to improve on your Google My Business, then hopefully my videos are going to help you. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you then return and enjoy the benefits of these audits and videos. So let's look at some of your particular listings today, your Google My Business listings, and also look out for the one where we're going to see if Google play by their own rules. Let's jump straight in.
So this is another audit that I'm doing for any of you that are subscribed and then asked me to look at your competitors. And again, we're going to look at 5 various ones to look at. So let's take our first one, and what we're going to look at is see what the competition is doing and see if there's anything we can do to kind of help. But we're not going to really try and reveal who we're referring to, though what I will say is this person does very, very well. So that kind of gives away a little bit as to why I'm not going to mention how well they're doing, but they seem to need to just stay up the top when it comes to being a painter in Springfield. So looking for really how things are. So if we go to perhaps the second one down. So again, we're just looking at this listing here. It looks like it's been claimed, but it doesn't seem to have any hours or any website, so that's kind of not really a good thing at all. So that's something that perhaps if the owner here wants to consider adding hours and adding a website, that would make quite a difference, and we'll see a website makes a big difference in a moment. So what else could this person do? It's not really not a great deal there to look at, is there? Because they've not really filled much in. Let's take this one, and again, this is all filled out, so that's good. And in fact, when I looked through earlier just at some of the competition here, there wasn't really anything that stood out. If you look at the results, you'll see there's not a lot of competition. So it's good to do well there because there's not a huge amount of competition. It appears that in the Springfield area, the competition's not fierce on Google My Business at this time. So there's not really a great deal I can add here. What I will say is if you haven't claimed your business, that's really important. So claim your business if this is your business, and obviously update your photos because pretty much everything there needs updating, doesn't it? The other thing I say, just to point out, what is add a label? Because some people have asked me that. Add a label really is just a case of if this was your company, you might call this work. So you click on add a label, you call it work. And the reason you do that is then if ever you're in Google Maps or if you're on your phone and you just say, give me directions to work, then it will then take you to this address. It just saves you typing out 264 Brook Road and so on. That's the reason why add a label is there if you did want to know. So it's ideal more for perhaps friends' addresses rather than businesses. But if it's work or if it's a place that you go each week, you might say the gym, you just call it the gym rather than the address of the gym. And that's the reason why that's the case. But going back to these results, there isn't really a lot I can say. There's not a lot of competition. The person's doing very well. Keep getting good reviews and keep really up to date, keep everything up to date, keep adding at least once a week a photo or a post, and that should keep you at number 1. So you should be getting quite a lot of inquiries, I would have thought, through that being number 1. Now the second one I'm going to do is quite different actually, and this is kind of a couple of little things here that I think you're going to enjoy. So I'm going to type in Google California USA and see what comes up. Now we all know that obviously Google owns several buildings in California, and these are pretty much all the complex buildings at Mountain View and San Diego and so on. So these are kind of, there's not really a lot of differences here. They're all very much owned, but there's a couple of things I just wanted to point out. Number one is if you go to the main building here, this is software company, Google building, GBC, but some of the buildings that Google own actually still haven't been claimed, and that was quite funny, I thought. So I could potentially claim this business. Obviously they're not going to send a postcard to me, and I'm not going to be able to actually get full ownership of this, but I just thought that was funny to see. So that was something I just wanted to point out. But another thing as well, you just noticed that the stars on even on Google isn't perfect. 83 reviews, 3.9. In fact, if you go back to some of the main buildings as well, so Googleplex, which is the business parks, this is the main building, and obviously you can't claim this one. They've definitely claimed this one. That would be cool if you could. But even there, if you see the reviews, okay, so we've got some good reviews here, and obviously that's the case. But you'll notice they get 1-star reviews, they get 2-star, 3-star, and 4-star. And all I'm trying to say is they average 4.3. So if you do get the odd bad review, well then it's not the end of the world. Google doesn't expect perfection. So 4.3, they say about 4.5 is what everyone should be aiming for. So you do get people that will grumble no matter what happens, or situations that occur. If I just wanted to, I don't know if I can see these reviews. Let's just see if we got a 1-star, how they handle it. That would be interesting. Let's see. So we've got any, there's a 1-star there. So this person, I mean, often these are complaints that don't even seem to be reasonably fair, but they haven't replied actually, which is surprising. In fact, looking at this, it looks like Google doesn't do what they say, which is to reply to anyone. Well, there you go. So you live and learn. So I'd just say again, if you're getting worried or concerned, or you kind of just think, oh dear, why have I got 4.5 and not 5? Well, then just accept that it appears, if you look through all of Google's ratings, they're all around about 3.8 to 4. So anything kind of below 3.8, I would have said, appears to be a bit more of a concern. Probably 4.5 is what you should be aiming for. So I just thought that'd be interesting to mention. And the fact that you can manage the listings of some of these buildings potentially, but again, claim this business. And it is Google, because look, we've got Google's website and the address is Mountain View. So just thought I'd mention that. Okay, let's move on to our next one then. So this one's going to be a bed and breakfast at, so let's, Google's talking again. You can't say the word Google without it starting to talk. So let's go for a bed and breakfast in India. Okay, so this person that subscribed, again, does very, very well, so we'll avoid the one that he's at. But what can we notice here then? So if we click onto this one, and this is good because it's got all the reviews, it's got to compare prices, though I think this kind of is very much default. You've got the highlights, and these are things to do with the attributes, and we discussed those in a video, so I'll put a link to that. But filling out, I think when you've got a bed and breakfast or you've got a hotel, you need to fill out as much as you possibly can, because there is so much more. It's got so much more richness for a visitor. You're competing against everyone else as well. You're competing against price, about star. The photos themselves will make a massive difference if you're trying to be seen. So you just want to make sure that consider it. If you look at what others are seeing. So this is like when you see a hotel like this, it stands out, doesn't it? It looks smart. So you want it to stand out and to be in line with really what everyone else is doing as well. Or if you are going to stand out, to be standing out for a good reason, not a bad reason. But if you notice here, they've filled out pretty much all these things. That's pretty good. Let's just go back to another one and see what we can. If there's anything else. I think there was, this was interesting. So this one here, it's got so much missing information. So, so this looks standard. I think this comes no matter what. It's more like an advert, I think, from Google. And the check availability seems to be built in as well. But you notice that apart from the address and that, there's no phone number, there's no website added, there's no well, there are reviews, but these are not because they're asking for them, but people are giving them anyway. So this is a shame that this isn't really updated. So it's claimed, but it's not updated. So add missing information. It's a no-brainer, really. If you don't have a website, there's plenty of web designers around that can do that. If you don't have a phone number, then that would be surprising. So just again, I think that's something when you look at the competition, you notice the richness that comes through. So here, spa, free Wi-Fi. We discussed all these things in a video just earlier this week called attributes. So if you want to know Google My Business business and attributes, then that's a video that you need to look at, and you'll understand how to get all these things as quickly and as clearly as possible, so they're benefiting, you're not, and it's the same here, and so on. So hopefully that'll help you to kind of move forward. Okay, I'm going to take another client. This one's to do with the theatre. So having a theatre in Leeds in the UK. So let's try this one, see what comes up. Okay, so again, you'll notice that sometimes it pulls out things like 15 of the most haunted buildings, 17 absolute best things to do in Leeds. These are kind of, again, all these little highlights come out here. Google, for just some reason, it will just pick them from the website. So that's important to make sure your website has that information and that you've also submitted it on here. But again, we can see good ratings and so on. Again, without looking at the subscriber, so I won't go to there. But one of the things that I will just point out, if you do have cinemas or theatres and so on, is again to fill out everything. You get this popular time, which is a really useful one. But I think one of the things that you probably need to consider is these up and coming events. And this is something that, again, if you've got a business, you may have seen that you can add events. And these events really are really useful because people can see what's going on. So what's happening at Leeds Theatre, they can see here. Okay, so on Saturday, I can see that the marriage of Figaro, and that's happening today as well. How do these things appear? Well, if you click on one, you'll see that it will take you to the event itself, but the event itself is filled out on your listing. So let me see if I can show you how that happens. So if I go to maybe suggest and edit, is that, no, don't want that. I think what we'll do, if we just type in, this will be the easiest way, let's just type in theatre Leeds. So that's what we want. So I'll just put it into Google. So the events again come up, which is really good, and okay, so again the events here come up, and if I click on 25 more, and again all the events here, and all this is just someone, they're actually adding events. So if you go to posts, you'll see that events are very much part of what you can add as well. So you should be able to add those events, and then they start to show, and as they come to the date and then they end, then these will continue to move along. So I think that's a really useful thing. So they've really kept on board. They've got someone that goes in and makes sure that every day the latest events are added, and that's a really nice facility, and that must get quite a lot of interest from that. So that's what I do. So going back to this here, then if you do have a cinema or a theatre in the Leeds area, then that's what you need to do, is just make sure you add all the events using the post mechanism, and you'll see that rather than putting it as a post, put it as an event and put a date on it as well. Okay, let's take the last one then. This is a pressure cleaning company in Australia. So let's put this one up and see. Let's just take the number one, because that's always the one you want to beat. What is it that they're doing well and doing better? Well, they're not really doing anything a lot better. I mean, there's a real high competition here. Everyone's got 5 zeros. Okay, these perhaps not so many of them, but again a 5 here as well. So these are all doing rather well, and you have to ask yourself, okay, what are they doing? What can I do to stand out? And looking at this, really, there's not a huge amount. Maybe they could have some more photos on that one. This is probably the one, so we're interested in this one. How can we beat this one? This is number one. And sometimes, and this is perhaps something that I haven't covered before, and it's worth covering as well in this video, sometimes it's not actually about anything to do with your Google My Business. It's more to do with how your website is viewed by Google. So this website here is really cool. It's got a really good website, because what it does, it takes their, so if you notice, they've got a tremendous amount of reviews. They've got 5.0s, and I know that the person that I'm reviewing this for has also got excellent reviews, and also uses the reviews on his website, and even has it where it clicks through to being able to review them and add to them. So, I mean, everything it's doing is absolutely right on the other website, and the person that is behind this that's a subscriber of mine. But what I will say is I just checked this out, which is the competition, and they've got it right at the top, which is quite useful. That really kind of stands out, reviews on Google, but they've also got it down here as well. And these are two things that stand out quite quickly when you go to the home page. So that might make some difference. What it might do is it might mean that people start linking through to this, and that makes then this domain more of an authority, because it gets more juice from other websites that are giving it authority, and therefore that kind of filters back through to the Google My Business. So they're kind of all interconnected through Google. But the other thing I notice as well, and I'm not saying I think this is a good thing, because actually I think they've done this, and this is something that probably Google will cut down on in time. And again, the other websites did this as well, which is very good. It stands out with the testimonials. So you can't. There's not a lot between the two websites, but I can only assume that one, they've added video, and which is always good for keeping people on the website. And Google knows how long you've spent on a website if you start watching videos as well. It helps with the rankings. But the other thing they've done as well is I noticed, what was it, service areas. Now, I would encourage one or two. Funnily enough, this doesn't seem to work very well, because it comes up with all the W's, and then if you go through to 17, it comes up with all the A's. And yet if I said K, click on that, the JavaScript doesn't seem to work for me. So I don't know, it's kind of, it doesn't actually work. But what it's doing, and you may wonder, why are they talking about pressure cleaning and Allambie Heights and pressure cleaning in Abbotsford? It's not going to do them any good long term, because this is just repeating itself, and all they're doing is they're just putting Abbotsford or Allambie, and this used to work. This is really kind of being cut out by Google, because all they're doing is they're just cutting and repeating, copying and repeating, but they're just changing the name of the place. And the reason they do this is it basically affects, so I assume those are all areas that are local to this. So they've probably got a Wahroonga, or whatever it is. Let's have a look. So if we go back to service areas, and WA, was it page 2? Yeah, there you go. So they've got that. So they're saying that they're the authority on pressure cleaning, and they may well be, but they've then repeated, and at the moment Google is using that, and all this here is kind of very spammy. It's not really thinking about me as a visitor, and that is why they're number one. So the tendency is, if you can't beat them, join them, but I don't think Google's going to allow for that for much longer. It's kind of a bit spammy. It's not really thinking of the visitor. And it's working for them, and at the moment those are the types of things that Google will probably eventually eradicate. So if you want short-term gains, that's probably a good solution. If you want long-term gains, then just continue to just plug away doing all the things I mentioned in my videos, and you won't go far wrong. Now, if you want to follow any more direction, then you'll enjoy these next videos that I'm going to put up for you. Thanks.